talking about these 5 things, how habits are formed. First one going to be, we are going to talk about the environment. It's one key player of how you form the habits that you have today. And then learning, and then coping, how your coping mechanisms lead you into being in some kind of habit. So those things are things that make you form or formulate some habits. And then also brain conditioning. Scientifically we call it neuronal conditioning. The brain pathways that also involve making you stick to certain habits. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a habit loop, and then we will call it a day and continue next week and talk about how to break these habits. So that is our outline for how habits are formed. All right, so we're going to start off, but before we go ahead, we want you to hit the like, comment, share, follow, give stars, and visit our website after the show. That way, we will roll together. That's a way of supporting us. We're providing you with great content, and if it is as we think you are getting, with all the comments we are receiving, then say something. Just let us feel it that you are getting something there, either now or later. But make sure you comment, because we have the ability to also show your comments sometimes on the live, especially if your comment is seen earlier before the show ends. So let us hear from you and share it with other people, as well as giving your thumbs up. I already see about 4 people already giving us a thumbs up, and I'm pretty sure if you're going to join later, and if you haven't done it, you are going to also do it. So that is what we are asking of you. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to how habits are formed. The first one being the environment. You understand? Right?
Environment. So where you grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe when you were growing up, there are certain things that were readily available in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be something that unconsciously you have picked on it and it has become part of you. You have been doing it over and over and over. And maybe now you realize that whatever you picked from your environment is not that healthy, but you have repeatedly done it over and over to a point that it's now part of your habits. Let's think of maybe you grew up in an environment that you have a lot of carbohydrates, foods readily available in your surroundings. So when you were growing up, that's what you find yourself eating over and over again. So that's like something you cherish so much, and it's a habit that you realize that is so hard to break because you have the taste and the desire to consume that kind of unhealthy foods, but it's not your doing, but because of where you grew up, the environment, the things around you, you have unconsciously picked on those things and it has become part of you. Yeah.
All right, so that is one of the points, your environment, your surroundings, what is around you. So people are, even according to behavior scientists, according to behavior scientists, um, people are the product of their genes and their environment. Product of your genes will code for one protein or the other and tell you what you could use your protein for. But in order for you to actually come out and do something, your genes will be shaped by the environment. And so environment definitely tells what some of the habits are. It doesn't mean that if you are in a place, you have to automatically become what they do. But what we are saying is that some people have developed some habits because of where they are. Where they are, their surroundings have shaped them. And so their belief system, the way they do their things, the way they talk, the way their interaction with elderly people, the way the attitude towards work, whether or not they will be drinking or not. All these things have been shaped by the environment. I know for a fact that in certain very colder climates, in Russia and in other places where it's very cold, a lot of people stick to alcohol because for them, when they drink alcohol during the colder months, they get warm. So by virtue of being there, if you do not choose not to drink, you will eventually be tempted to drink, because that is what some people believe should be used to, to control the colder climate that they find themselves in. So environment can dictate a lot of habits. So if you are in any habit that you don't know how it came about, it is potentially from your surroundings. So that is one key thing that makes people form those habits, whether it's dangerous or good. The other thing is your access to certain things. If you have access to certain things, then that will also inform what you do with those things that you have access to. If you do not have access to certain things, it will also inform what you do not do, because you don't have access to. And so if you see, for example, little kids walking barefooted in some very poor places in India, or in, maybe in Pakistan, or maybe in Africa or somewhere, it is not because they have chosen not to wear, shoes or slippers, but they have no access, no access to clothing, no access to money is not there. And so it is not like, as for them, or the parents don't like dressing good. It is the lack of access. So if that habit is there, you cannot blame them for that. So habitual, habits do form out of what the environment dictates to a lot of people. Some people have no choice but to yield to the habit that is there. And some actually have found themselves into culture. So you think that these people believe in this way. It's not because they believe, it's because of what is surrounding them, what they have. They are making do with what they have, and they have formed beliefs, some belief systems you hear, and you'll be surprised. They believe in this? Yes, they do, because that's what is around them. And because they have to make some excuse or some reason for doing what they do, they formulate some belief systems. And so that is another way, one major way, the environment, for contributing to some habits that are formed. And if you have
And
any,
with the access, some area, the people have the access of what? Substance abuse, substances that are very dangerous. They have access to drugs, but because it's in their environment and it's out there, that it's available, so their chance of getting their hands
hands on
on
them.
it is there, then they will build that habit. And as we've already mentioned, it becomes part of you, because you do it over and over and over, and it's now part of you. And sometimes you get rewards for having certain habits, right? So if you have substance abuse around you, or if you try a little harder, you will get hold of it. It's likely that you are going to pick up some habits that will be harmful to you.
Definitely,
Yeah.
that's a very good point. That is a very good point. That is very, very important. That's very important. Yes, because of what you have access to illicit drugs, access to cocaine, access to cigarettes, access to alcohol. It is so rampant. Where we live, alcohol is very cheap. Not that I went to buy some, but I've heard. Yes, I've heard from people who drink. Here in the US, alcohol is very cheap, comparatively or relatively, compared to other places. And so if you have that access and money is not an issue, then you can easily be, influenced to drink. And that brings us to the other issue of the environment influencing you. The kind of people that you associate yourself with can easily what? Influence you.
Yes.
Influence comes with people that are around you or your surroundings. The people that are next to you, the people that you go to school with, the people that you work with, the people that you roll with, basically, would influence you, and that influence can make you form some form of habits, which may be dangerous. We are hoping that you form habits that are not dangerous from people, but definitely your environment can bring influence. The places you go to school, the places that you live, people will make sure that they influence you. And this is where leadership comes in. We know that leadership is influence, right? So if you live in a place where people are leading you to think some way, you can formulate some habits that are, in agreement with what those people who are leading you are saying. So people believe in poverty, you can believe in poverty. Some people say that, as for me, this is how I am, it's fine with me, because they have been spoken to, whether by preachers or by politicians or by whoever, that it is okay to be poor, as long as you get something, that you can eat and clothe yourself with, is good. So they have become permanently poor and they have accepted their fate because the influence that they have that is how you should do it. And to the extent that some people even use scripture, if you're a believer, a pastor, and you talk about prospering, you become, known as the person who is worldly oriented, forgetting the fact that God made riches, God made gold. I don't know why God would make gold and think that his children should be poor. But if you are led by a minister or by a politician who thinks that the status quo should not change, everything should remain the same, just be poor your life and, just a little bit, just, go by day and you'll be fine. And you accept that, then you develop a habit of laziness. You won't be, a person who is adventurous. You won't be somebody who wants to make it big. So you become habitually lazy. So influence in the environment. So the surrounding, physical surroundings, as well as the access to the things around you and the influence of the people surrounding you.
Yeah. So sometimes your culture can also influence you.
Definitely.
The way that the people around you think can also influence you. Sometimes when there is a problem, okay, health problem or something that we cannot explain, we tend to associate that or attribute that to some outer forces out there, So you've been conditioned so much over and over again that, if my life is not going as expected, then somebody else is
It's
doing
doing
me.
me. My goodness. My goodness.
Somebody else is making me like not prosper in life. Somebody else. So instead of looking within and trying to find solution for our lives or why things are not happening, we tend to say that, it's somebody else.
Somebody else.
And you have built that in you so much so that everything that comes your way, you don't look within, you look for somebody else. You point your finger at somebody else. That is maybe cultural. Maybe you can think about it that because of the way that your environments were when you were growing up, that's why you have adapted that way of thinking. And that can really be a very harmful thing.
Very, very harmful. Now, honey, it's important that you brought this up because in some places that I think we have lived before, some people would blame every major problem they have on quote unquote witches and wizards. Everything. While in other places people look, do you know that when I was a kid I thought that if somebody had epilepsy it's because it's a spiritual thing, because the environment that I lived, that's what they said. They believe that. Yeah, they believe that's a spiritual thing that somebody is doing you. Until I became a pharmacist, I went to actually, while as a student, then we realized that all these things have chemical components that can be solved with medications. In the same way, somebody is blaming some old grandmother who doesn't even have teeth to chew meat. Poor old lady, they are being blamed for multiple problems that they have no clue how they came by. Perchance they, menopause happens and they have hot flashes and they say certain words that don't make sense. That is the proof. Oh yeah, we told you this woman is a witch or wizard. We told you this woman is a witch. This old man is a wizard. You see what she or he is saying. This man or woman is probably dealing with some mental health issues, probably going through some serious hot flashes, menopausal symptoms, and yet we choose them and blame them, and then we sit down and relax because this old person is doing me. That is a habit that comes from where you live and what you believe. So environmental processes, in fact, this is a serious thing with developing countries, whether it's India, Pakistan, Asia, Africa, where developing countries are, many people attribute their problems to spirits. Spirits, thinking that if something is not going right, it's got to be somebody who is jujuing them. It is not so. It is not so. But until you begin to believe otherwise and begin to research into problems and find solutions like other people have done. People have, done research and found that medications could be used to treat epilepsy. Medications could be used to treat anxiety. Medications could be used to treat diabetes. Then you will sit down and become what you just believe. And God forbid what that will, end you up, but what that will lead you up to, whether you don't take yourself seriously by going to hospital or doing an annual checkups to make sure that your diseases are cured, because of course you have something to blame. So those are habits that form as a result of beliefs, influences, and culture that we find ourselves in. I don't know if you have anything else to add on that. All right, so with that on the way out of the way, let's move to the next thing that we want to talk about. So that is, the first one is environment, how your habits are formed. The second one is learning, called it learned behavior and learned habits. And learning can happen by observation. When I'll start with this actually with kids, how children in the home can observe their parents and their siblings and begin to act the same way. Similarly, adults too, we do that, but we don't know we are doing that. We inadvertently copy certain things, that we see other people do, and then they become part of our own behavior. Initially, it may be just one action that you took because somebody else and trust is doing, and then you repeat it and you find out, oh, that was good, and you continue to do it. And before you know, you are a master of that particular behavior. So you have become a habit. It's become a habit for you. It has become you, as we said in the beginning. So learning can also lead to habit formation. If you copy the lifestyle of people, if people do certain things and you feel like that is the order of the day, that is how things must go, then whatever habit it is that you are copying becomes your own habit. So that is another way that habits form.
Yeah, and also like aggressive
Behavior.
behavior. So like we're talking about children looking, right? So maybe when you were growing up, you realize that people around you tend to be very aggressive, So every little thing is like, so you are so violent. You want to break something, you want to hold somebody's neck, you want to do all that. So this could have been when you were growing up, your environment or the way that you've learned things over a period of time. You are inclined to adapt that into your life.
Because you're observing
You are
people do it.
seeing it and you are getting used to, and in your mind, it's like something normal. It's a norm out there. So you have picked certain things. And by picking that and doing it yourself over and over again, it becomes a habit. And for all that you know, maybe you will grow up and you get married, and everything that your wife says or anything that happened in the house, you become very aggressive. That habit may have formed whilst you were growing up, because that was what you have seen it being done around you, your social circle, people around you were doing it. So you ended up doing the same. And through that, you build that habit.
My goodness, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. That is learning habits for you, learning to do certain things that you picked up, whether as a child or even as an adult. Now, the sad thing is, some formal education has also been used to teach people to behave certain ways. In formal education, even though we observe people naturally as we are and copy their lifestyles, but some school systems or some education systems have in place certain things that they have deliberately put in their curricula to ensure that they're shaping the lives of the children that come through those institutions. That could be just a positive thing, or it could be a negative thing. So if you are an educator, watch out how you teach, because whatever you show out there is being observed by the people who come through your circles, and then it becomes their behavior. If you're a teacher and you are violent, you have no patience, watch out, because the kids are watching and they know that, even the teacher is violent. Even the teacher has no patience. Even the teacher has no belief that they can do better. Even the teacher thinks this way about other people. So it is normal. And then the kids will copy your habits and make them their own habits. So that is observation coming through formal education. And that leads us to the other part of our learning process in habit formation, which is social modeling. So I don't know if I'll start. So in social modeling, what happens is, as you observe people do certain things, you see if people who take certain actions are rewarded. Now, if they are rewarded, you tend to do the same. For example, an armed robber. Somebody is an armed robber. You see this person is an armed robber, and they have a lot of money. They don't go to work. All they do is to hit the streets once a week or once a month, and yet they are living good. They have not been caught. If you are observing that lifestyle, you are most likely going to think that it is something you should do, because what? A violent man, a thief like that is making it, they are being rewarded with that lifestyle, making life, sleeping in the day, not going anywhere and chilling with kids, and yet always rich. And they are an armed robber. If you are living around and you haven't already formulated your opinions about what is good and right, or sometimes even if you have, you may be tempted to do the same. That is what we call social modeling. So what the society rewards, if society rewards people who do certain things, however bad it may be, then other people are going to copy and do the same. And that is why we have death penalty and all those huge sentences for people, so that it will warn other people not to do it. We don't want other people to feel like if you kill somebody, you're good, because nothing's going to happen to you. After all, 10 years you'll be out of jail. If that were to happen, what society would be doing is to model other people to do the wrong things. And so social modeling is a way that also leads to habit formation. So if people are doing certain things and there are rewards there for the evil that it may be, the positive rewards are there, trust you me, other people are going to do the same, because it is a habit that has been rewarded. Oh man, I hope it's making sense. That is social modeling in habit formation. So that is learning. So we've talked about observation, people just observing and seeing other people live somewhere and they feel like doing the same thing. And then people learning to do certain things because they are being rewarded for what they did, whether it is good or bad. So for example, somebody who is an alcoholic may feel good, may forget about their issues of life. They may be doing all kinds of stuff, and they are making life. You see this person's having fun because they are drinking. Then you may be thinking, if you are looking, you are observing, you are learning that action, you may be tempted to do the same, because this person drinks and all her problems are gone. All his problems are gone. They have fun, and so you become you copy that style, and that is learning to be in that kind of wrong habit, or dangerous habit. So that is what habits can do.
Yeah, so under the observation, you were talking about formal learning, right? If we bring it home, we have informal learning. I know some parents would be like, do what I say, not what I do.
Oh my goodness. Do what I say, don't do what I do.
Yes.
Oh my.
Do what I say. So maybe the child may be challenging them and they will tell them that do what I say. But the best teacher at home is the parents.
My goodness.
So your actions
speaks louder.
Yes, and the kids are observing you. Whatever you're doing, they are looking. And through that, they are going to have some habits in life that may be dangerous. So if you want your kids to abstain from alcohol, and they see all this wine and all these alcoholic beverages in the fridge, and you are telling them not to drink, they are not going to hear you.
Or action speaks louder than words. So behaviors are picked up as a result of observations that we are talking about through social modeling, the rewards that you show. You are, like she said, you're boozing at home and you say, do as I say. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. My goodness. Or you are not eating healthy. When as a parent, you see food, people bring you food and you decide to choose the wrong foods. You decide to choose the sugary food, and you tell your kids, don't eat like I eat. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You got to set the example. As a parent, what are some of the other bad behaviors they do? You talk about people, negative mindset. You can gossip and kill people with your lips, and you expect the kids to come out and not be like that? Come on, man. It doesn't work like that. They are observing, and they are seeing it. Or you have friends. that all they do is to slaughter people by their lips,
Mhm.
gossiping.
Mhm.
Soon you will start talking about people too, because
Using the curse
using
words
the curse
and
words
the bad
and
words,
the
they
bad
say.
words, because that is what they are seeing. That is what you are seeing. You are going to do the same thing. So action speaks louder than words. That is what how behaviors are formed. Behaviors are picked up not by saying that, hey, I want you to do this. No, 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 no. Let them see you do it. And that is what is something we should definitely be serious about. Now, with that being said, let's move on to the third way that habits are formed. So the third way that habits are formed is coping.
Mm.
This is another huge area. Coping. People do certain things, or people have formulated some habits because they want to cope, whether emotionally or physically. They are coping, their actions or their behavior has been formed as a result of emotional stress. Do you want to say anything, or should I go on?
Yes, sir.
So, emotional stress, if you are living in anxiety or in depression, you are emotionally strained, that is a recipe for you to, it is a trigger. It is something that can cause you to choose a bad behavior just to cope for that particular thing that you're going through mentally or emotionally. So you may fall on alcohol. We are beating on the alcoholics today. But let me tell you that some people are drinking alcohol not because they want to. The reason is that they are trying to cope with the particular underlying problem that they find themselves in, whether they are lonely, whether they have serious debt, whether their wife is beating them at home. My goodness. Seriously, yeah. Whether they are going through some employment issues, some financial issues, there is a reason that they are doing that. So they are using that bad or dangerous habit to actually cover up something. So they are using it as a coping mechanism. See, most of the time for emotional reasons. If you're a wife and you are being emotionally abused by your husband, I will not be surprised if you become a gossip, because talking to people about other people may become an easy way out. So because of something that is happening to you emotionally, you are choosing a lifestyle or a habit just to cope
Mhm.
with that particular thing you're going through. And that happens for with other things that people face. You could name it. It could be anything.
Yes, sometimes too, some people are very insecure,
Insecurity.
insecurity.
Mm,
So, in order to cope
mm,
for that insecurity, they tend to do certain things
mm,
that may be harmful to them.
mm,
So, if they are insecure, they will start putting some pictures out there
mm,
just to feed on the comments from
mm,
other people.
mm,
That's the way of coping.
mm.
So that coping mechanism may lead you to have certain habits
Certain habits.
that may not be of your doing, but because you are trying to deal with that situation, you tend to adapt certain things that may be not that safe for you.
My
Yes,
goodness.
so
My
coping
goodness. My
mechanisms. Yeah.
goodness. So can I say that? Oh,
No, where you're going with that.
I mean, think about it. If you are a lady and you are exposing your complete body on Facebook, you are telling me that you have the problem of accepting who you are. You don't
Mm,
believe you are beautiful enough. So you want to show me your butt and everything in between so that I can say I like it, and then you'll be happy.
mm,
Because if you really have that self confidence, then you wouldn't do that.
mm.
Yeah, I hope the ladies, you can pardon me, but the men also do that. You can say it when it comes to when
Mhm,
it comes to them. No, but the way you show yourself, your pictures, the way you portray yourself can speak volumes. You may be
mhm,
covering up an underlying emotional pain.
mm.
You may have been abused as a child. You probably feel nobody wants you, nobody likes you. In your neighborhood, no guy, no man has ever told you that you are beautiful. But when you put that picture on Facebook, come and see comments. And so you become that person who is always posting those kinds of pictures. It is not because you're a bad girl. No, you are not. I'm telling you, you are a very good girl, but you are feeding off of the comments to cover up an emotional thing that's going through your mind. And so, I mean, if you don't have any emotional problems, there could be something else. It could be poverty. You may not have money. So when you get a new clothes, you want to show that you have money. My goodness. you know? And the same for the guys. I don't want to pick on the women a lot, but I mean, I'm on Facebook and I see all some pictures, and sometimes I'm like, man, why is this happening? It is because people are trying to cover up some emotional pain, some perceived. It's not an inadequacy, but they perceive that they are inadequate. But they are all beautiful anyway. They are all prosperous anyway, and yet they want to show people that they are rich because they have a perception that somebody else is richer and they are not doing well, so they have to portray that. So they have one image of themselves on social media and another image which is real if you go to their homes. But if you are for real, if nothing is happening, you wouldn't stress yourself to do that. And so habits may have formed around those things. So if you are doing something like that, just ask yourself, why am I doing this anyway? Well, what is the reward here? Am I covering up something? That may be the reason why you are doing it. So that would be a good question to ask anybody. Yeah. Anything you do, just ask yourself, what is my motive here? Am I trying to cover up some pain somewhere? And am I going through certain things that I'm unable to share? I'm trying to cover up with this particular lifestyle of mine. If that's the case, then you can address that particular underlying issue, which we're going to get to next week, and then ensure that you don't behave or live in some habits that are not, really fun to live like. So that is what I don't know if you have anything else.
And I think some people also cope by eating a lot of foods. Yeah, they are so stressed, they are not able to maybe handle a situation or the lifestyle, whatever is happening in their life, and they just eat, and they by eating over and over, sometimes more like sugary foods, kind of calm them down. So they will eat and eat and eat and eat. That's a way of coping. So that can be a very bad habit if you tend to build it that way.
My goodness. So eating as a coping mechanism. So some people have become very huge in terms of their weight, and it's because they are overeating. And it's not that they like food. I mean, granted, some people naturally like food, trust me. But some people, they are only eating because they are covering up an issue in their life that they don't even know that is an issue. Maybe the relationship they have at home, whether it's with their parents or with their spouses, or their spouse, or the relationship at work, or a relationship with their children who are going wayward. So, anything that will make them feel sweetness in their mouth will cover up the pain of whatever they are going through. And so they will eat and eat and eat and become obese. Some people go through that. So that is a habit that has come as a result of emotional stress or emotional pain, and they're using their habit to cope. So that is how some habits do form. Now, with that, I want us to also zoom to some people who are also actually going through physical pain and do certain things. Remember, we talked about addiction, right? Some people are hooked on cocaine, marijuana, as well as crack, and the only reason is that they initially had some pain, and they got to some pain medications, and the pain control was there, and after that they have become hooked on those things to control the pain. I'm talking about physical pain. People with cancers, people who had accidents and injuries, and surgeries that they were given some pain medicines, and now they cannot stop because either the pain is still chronic and they have become hooked on the pain medicine, or the pain is gone, but prior to being gone they got used to the drug and now they can't get off the drug. So physical pain can also lead to certain habits that are also not intended, usually for them, but they have become that way, addicted to those things. We talked about addiction to workaholic, addiction to sex, addiction to what else? Drugs and alcohol, of course, substances, because of emotional and physical pain. That is the underlying cause. If you are in certain habits, some people are very irritable. They are always angry. It's not because they want to be always angry. They have some pain. They probably have some arthritis pain that needs to be treated. My goodness. But because that pain has not been treated, the underlying pain is causing them to always be angry. They can't tell you that I'm in pain. I'm in pain. I'm suffering. And so they act out their pain through their actions, become
Yes.
easily angry, throwing tantrums. Anybody who throws tantrums, unless they are children, if they are an adult, there's something missing somewhere. I don't want you to go out there and begin to judge people's character. we we just want to make sure that we become complete in this knowledge of the fact that habits can be formed this way. So if you haven't formed any habits, don't let yourself get into any of those dangerous habits, because they can easily be formed because you are trying to cope with something. And should we go forward?
Yes.
All right. So with that, we're going to go to the next point. And the next way habits are formed is what we call brain conditioning or neuronal conditioning. You understand? So when we talk about conditioning, habits, if you remember from our last show last week, I think we even mentioned it at the intro here. We said that when habits become more and more, your brain begins to develop some neuronal pathways that make it easy for you to do them. I'm actually going to bring my own example from driving and living in the US for a long time, in my own home. Anytime I'm going out of my garage, I push my garage door opener and then it opens and I go. And I'm coming in, push my garage door opener and it opens and I pack in. To the extent that I've done it so many times that sometimes I do it and I don't even remember that I did it. And then we'll be up on the hill somewhere and I'll ask my kids, did I close the garage? My goodness. Did I close the garage? Seriously, because I don't remember even doing it, because I've done it so many times that my brain does it without me even thinking about it. And that is what happens when you have habits. Habits make your brain do the things you've done over and over and over before you even think about it, you've done it. Like Gifty was saying, you may drive to work without even knowing or noticing anything on the roadside because it became part of you. It's become second nature. You sit in the car and because it's work, even if you don't hold the steer, you probably could get there. Right? And because of that, it's so easy. And that's the whole key here.
Yes.
The brain has formed certain connections in you that make the things automatic. It is happening without thinking about it. Opening garage without thinking, or closing garage without thinking. And then thinking about it later, oh, did I do it? Why? Because your brain has mastered the act of that habit to the extent that you don't have to think about it. And that happens because your brain, that's what we call it, brain conditioning. So some people have some habits, and the only reason why the habits are there, you see them doing over and over again, is because their brain has been conditioned. So that is what I would say to that. And then maybe I'll come back
Yeah,
in
so
after.
like if they've built this addiction to alcohol and something triggers it, we will talk about the loop. So if you have the trigger or the cues that, oh my God, I'm going to be stressed or something bad had happened, the first thing that you think about is pouring the alcohol.
Just pouring the alcohol.
You don't even think through. Maybe you've been educated about liver function and about how bad you're doing, and that you have to change your ways. And maybe the doctors are talking. You are listening to shows like this, and we are saying it over and over. But you have built this habit to the point that you don't even think through it. You just start drinking. If you have addiction, some people will hide some of the drugs in the house because they feel like when they need it, they want to get it. And they don't think, they just go straight there. And by the time that they realize, they are already smoking because it's been conditioned in them so much and it's ingrained in the brain to the point that they will just find themselves doing it without thinking through or thinking about the consequences that comes from doing it. They just get done.
They just get done with alcohol and the drugs because that is what the brain has taught them to do. It is, I'm not saying you taught your brain to do that, and now your brain has taken over. And as a matter of fact, if we actually go to our next slide, we will actually have, I'm pretty sure, I think we should actually just read that. But before that, we are saying that connections for repetitive action. The brain has formed connections, short circuits. Instead of going round and round your brain to tell, oh, this side is for this side is for that, this side is for this. So if you see this, the brain knows that if you see that there's anxiety, the only solution is alcohol. So anxiety, alcohol, anxiety, alcohol. Instead of you to think about, oh, how can I drink alcohol? Me, I'm a big man. I don't drink.
I can
No,
handle it.
I can handle it. The brain has cut them all off because that habit has become part of you. So brain conditioning. And so people do certain things. We're using alcohol because it's the easier example, but you put yourself in that. If you have a habit that you're struggling to stop, this is what is happening. You cannot blame yourself too much. Your brain has accepted that as an easy way out. And you do it without knowing if you actually are honest to yourself. And that is why some habits have become very difficult to break. And then the other thing is the rewards that come as a result of these habits. When the brain perceives that anytime there is a problem, if you do this, oh, there's fun. Anytime you feel lonely, if you post a half naked picture on YouTube or Facebook and somebody clicks and says, oh my goodness, this is a shark woman, then then the reward of seeing people's comments, oh, you are pretty, you are out of this world. That is the reward that your brain sees and is like, hey, my goodness. And so next time, you won't even wait for you to be anxious or sad or anything. You know that when you put it there, those rewards are going to come. So habit rewards as a result of brain conditioning. So the brain gets conditioned to believe that this is a reward that you're going to get. So why don't you just do it? Why do you have to wait? Why do you have to carry and think about the consequences? People doing drugs, as I was showing, they not that they don't know that doing drugs you can OD and die. As we were showing, people are dying. We know hundreds of people, in fact, thousands of people dying every day, especially here in the US. People dying. People are dying all the time. Not that they are dumb. They know. They know, but the addiction part of the drug use has taken over their brains. And so they do it without even thinking. No, they don't consider anything anymore except for the rewards of high. They are going to be high. And so that reward keeps them doing the same thing over and over and over again. So that is one way that habits do actually fall.
Let's talk about the habit rewards, right? So after the habit has been formed, you realize that you feel rewarded after going through that. So what are some of the rewards? Some people will feel numb to the pain at that moment. So they do drugs or they take in the alcohol. Whenever they are drunk,
or they gossip,
they don't feel their pain anymore. Or when they gossip, they feel like they are bringing the person down, and their reward is that they are being lifted up because the person is a bad person after all, and they feel good of themselves because they are talking bad to another person. So that's the reward that they get. So they will keep doing it over and over because they think about the reward. What will happen if I post a naked picture out there and everybody, almost 10,000 views, and everybody is saying that I'm pretty? That's the reward. That is the fulfillment. The thing that people are saying make me feel good of myself. That's the reward.
That is your own drug because it's giving you the highs.
Highs.
Yes. So you are the same as somebody who is taking cocaine to get high. Just that, yes, is a physical one. Yours is the emotional one. You are just, hearing it. But for somebody using the drugs or alcohol, they are actually putting it in themselves.
Okay.
But pretty much you're doing the same thing. You're getting rewards and the brain has taken note. And that is why you do it without even thinking about it. So that is that for habit reward.
And some people will be very brave or be bold in doing certain things when they take that drug. They feel emboldened. So the things that they feel like they cannot do, they are able to do by taking that drug. So that is kind of a reward. They are able to take certain actions because they've used drug. So that's the reward. So if you're not careful and you build that habit, you are going to be thinking about the reward so much that you forget about the consequences that comes from having that bad habit.
My goodness. My. And it is we are saying it like it's an abstract. It is real. I mean, I've heard people saying that when they are going to their mother-in-law's house, they have to booze a little bit. My goodness, you
To
know,
be able to speak their mind,
to be able
right?
to be able to speak their mind,
Mhm.
or to be able to show up and talk boldly. So they have to drink a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You're facing this woman like that, this woman will make you feel like you're nothing. So
Mhm.
you got to drink a little bit. So that's the reward for which you are drinking the alcohol.
Mhm.
So you can bring it to some people are going to interviews and they have to do certain things the night before. Granted that now you can be screened for drugs, so I don't know how they handle it, but yeah, because they want to, like you said, be bold
Mhm.
and perform extraordinary,
Right.
not thinking about himself. I remember church, the chairman of the church was talking about
Mhm.
how alcoholics, the benefits of drinking alcohol, you know, and it's because they think they can get certain things done without even having to deal with it at all. And so the consequences are completely forgotten you know and so that is one reason why the brain develops those connections, because it is easy. It gives the reward to you, and you just move on without having to think about the consequences. That is the key. You don't even consider the consequences, because your brain has cut those things off, make it easy for the action to happen.
Mhm.
And so let's move on. Let's see, one or two. Yeah. So the next one this is actually a summary of the brain portions that are involved with the brain conditioning. And I know some scientists are on there, so I don't want you to think that we are just making this up. So I post this there. So the basal ganglia is involved in habit formation. It receives information from the prefrontal cortex and plays a significant role in the execution of habitual behaviors. As habits become more automatic, the basal ganglia takes over control from the prefrontal cortex and allows behaviors to occur with minimal conscious effort
Mm.
or deliberation. So the brain takes over, the part of the brain that takes over is the basal ganglia. It takes over, the part of you thinking about, oh, how am I going to do this? What is the consequences? It cuts them all off so that you will do those things and the habits become, minimally conscious effort. You don't even think about it, and then you don't even deliberate. That's the key. Minimal conscious, minimally conscious, and then no deliberation. You don't think about it.
Mhm.
You just do it because the rewards are there. The basal ganglia has taken over. The brain is in charge. You are just a reward recipient. And that is what happens in habit formation uh, using the brain conditioning. Now, the last one that we want to talk about, and then next week, I told you we can't finish everything today. So next week, we're going to talk about how to break those habits that you have formed. But hopefully, once you know how habits are formed, you can, nip it in the butt and stop it right there. But the key, this basically makes a summary, is a habit loop. So you want to talk
Yeah, so for habits loop, there are three
three things here.
things that come together to form the loop. And the loop, as we all know, is all connected, right? So first of all, it starts with a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And some people also term that as a cue,
Mm-hmm.
something that triggers the behavior or the habit, right? So it triggers you. Then the moment that it triggers you, there is a behavior. You start acting. Then after the acting is done, you feel the reward.
Mm.
So there is trigger, you act, that's the behavior, and you get the reward.
Mm.
So it's all connected. And like you've mentioned already, you don't really think of it. It's so minimal. The brain function has been reduced to this point that the moment that the trigger comes, you don't think about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
You just start acting. Then after you've acted, you think about the reward, and the reward also comes right
Mm-hmm.
away. So it's like a cycle,
Mm.
and it's keep going on and on.
Mm.
Some people talk about willpower, right?
Willpower.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, you just have to stop it.
Mm.
And by the time that you realize, because you've done it and it has become a habit, that willpower is not there.
Mm.
Because the moment that there is a trigger, the moment that there is a cue, or signs of it happening, something happening, then you take the behavior takes over. The action follows. Then after the action has followed, the rewards come. Then you are all calm and collected. You're like, oh, I told myself I will never do this thing again. How come that I keep doing the same thing? That sometimes after you've done it, you regret so much. You feel so bad that you've done such a thing. But you find yourself in that situation, that environment, that trigger, whatever triggers it. You find yourself in that situation. You don't think about that. You had said that you will never do that again. You just find yourself doing it, and the rewards will come, and the cycle continues.
And the cycle continues.
That is the
My
habit
goodness.
loop.
My goodness. And the cycle continues. That is the habit loop. So the triggers. So next week, God willing, when we meet and we're talking, we're going to talk about some of the triggers and how, if you see a trigger, how to change the response or the routine behavior, which is the habit, so that it won't continue in the same habit, which is evil. The triggers will continue to come. Trust me, you're going to have to go to an interview. You will be anxious. You're going to marry somebody who is not a good person. It will happen.
But sometimes you can get rid of the triggers, because if you find yourself in a place, a club that everybody is drinking, that's the trigger. So maybe you can remove yourself from that trigger.
You can.
Yes.
So next week we'll delve deeper into all that and see what you can do as a way of avoiding those habits that have not yet been formed. You probably are in a behavior lifestyle now. You're probably doing once a while, you hang out with the boys and something happens just once a while. But we probably will talk about how to stop it in the bud right now, so that it doesn't become a dangerous behavior. So that's what we're going to do. Or a dangerous habit. Thank you. So that it doesn't become a dangerous habit. It's probably a dangerous behavior now, but how to stop it? We're going to use these trigger routine behavior and the reward patterns, and see how you can modify some of your lifestyle patterns, and then ensure that you don't end up with a very bad habits that can kill. And then also, if you're already in a habit that can kill, then obviously you are also going to learn how to break off those habits. Now, we are going to be very plain about how to break off some habits, because some habits, you may need some deliverance, trust me. For some habits, you may need deliverance. I'm talking about spiritual breakthroughs.
Wow.
Yes. And some habits, we're just going to go with those trigger, routine, and reward patterns to attack them. But definitely don't miss the show next week, because we definitely, and I know everybody has one bad habit or the other. I'm not an angel. I know I have some bad habits. I'm not going to tell you my bad habits yet, but at least I'm going to learn how to break those bad habits. And so think about it this week as you go through the week, and ask yourself, what are some of the things that I want to change about my lifestyle? What do people usually point to and say that this is bad? Or what people haven't even seen, but you yourself know that it is something that you got to let go. And next week, God willing, when we meet, we'll be able to talk about how to end those habits and have a better life, a better lifestyle. That is what we are here to discuss. Now, I've seen some comments. Dr. Frank Cerebral of the Ghana Medical Association has said, my darling, who's referring to you. And then I've also seen Brother Jeremiah Ocherinyako also commenting on the live. Most people didn't comment on our Facebook page here. It's on the other page. That's why we couldn't bring it here today, but see those. So make sure that if you haven't shared the stream, this is the time to share it, because you're about to close out, and tell people that next week we're going to do it. And this week we're going to actually post another video, one short form of what some of the dangerous habits are. We talked about negative mindsets, and that video has been ahead. A lot of people, it's almost 400 people have watched, and some people have commented. It's just a cutout from our live show. We're going to cut out another dangerous habit and post it for this week. So look out for that. And until then, we say, Beloved, we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Thanks for watching. and see you again
Thank you.
as you go out and live your better life. God bless.